Hello, everybody. Greg Freyman here today to speak to you about tax season do's and don'ts. This is brought to you by Freyman CPA and our sister company, Atlanta Business Accountants. Remember, our motto here is your success is our success all day, every day. Now, I've put together a list of tax season do's and don'ts, and I'm going to read down the list for you and try to explain one at a time so that way you can succeed when tax season hits. All right, let's jump into it, shall we? So number one, and this is pretty obvious, but not so obvious to most people, you want to start a relationship with a tax professional early in the season. Now, our existing clientele onboard as early as November of each year. So it's usually a good time to start searching if you don't have one, to start searching early. And usually that's done prior year. But if you missed the prior year, then now is a great time. January is also a very good time. Just keep in mind that as we cross into January of every year, we ramp up and we get very busy with a lot of deadlines that come around and onboarding and all sorts of things. So most reputable accounting firms are already booked up for the season come January. So just keep that in mind. Number two, upload your documents as soon as you get them and let the tax pro know when you have uploaded everything you have. So this might sound counterintuitive because some people will actually wait until they have all their documents and start uploading them. But we'd rather see you guys upload every single item as you're getting it. So if you have multiple W-2s, you receive one, you upload it. You receive your 1099, you upload it. This way, first of all, we'll see that you're being active on our end. We'll get notifications from our cloud share that you're uploading things. So that keeps us in the forefront of our minds, making sure to keep you in mind as well. Because, most accounting firms are small in size and resources are quite limited. So if you're that squeaky wheel, that'll probably help out much more than if you're not the squeaky wheel. And nobody wants to be a bother during tax season. Obviously, we understand that, but just try to be as proactive as possible. All right. Tip number 3 would be request. So these are do's again. Request organizer onboarding and engagement agreement early. That kind of goes hand in hand with start looking for an accounting professional early. And most accounting professionals will have a portal, will have obviously engagement agreements for you to sign and deposits to leave and organizers to fill out and client questionnaires and all sorts of tools that are available for the clientele to be able to onboard properly. So that's all part of onboarding. So make sure that you're looking for a reputable firm that has all these capabilities available. Make it very easy to onboard. Everything should be paperless, virtual these days. Obviously, some places are still doing everything where you can walk in and get everything done physically. But for the most part, everything these days should already be easily accessible to you from anywhere. Number 4, be placed on a mailing list. Now, so a great thing to keep in mind is that besides all the tools that we have to onboard and process everything and make understanding your taxes easy, another great item is to just be informed. So most reputable accounting firms are either writing their own content on the latest tax developments or have some sort of cookie cutter software that will send out notifications and reminders and all sorts of things through their mailing list. So you want to make sure that you're always being notified from your accounting team as to the latest developments or any kind of information that can help you along the year and obviously get ready for tax season. All right, number 5, request to touch base on any news that apply to your situation this year. So tax law changes, pretty much every year, and things get more complicated than they tend to get simpler, or as your situation changes. So you want to address these things early on, and usually a good time for that is around December, when most accountants are taking their continuing professional education and getting ready for the tax season. That's when those courses come out. They come out towards the end of the year when legislation is finalized, when there's updates, and they are getting updated on the most recent developments. So everything's still very fresh in their mind come December, January of every year. And you want to be abreast of what's the latest what's the latest tax law changes that may impact your specific tax situation. We tend to send out YouTubes that we put together ourselves. Obviously, we also have a marketing software program tailored for accountants that sends out cookie cutter information to our clients. So that's another way to get information. And then obviously you want to reach out early and say, hey, this changed in my situation, or I think I might be eligible for this new tax credit or deduction, what have you. So that's always good to get informed and learn about what's going on in the tax world, and basically kind of step into the shoes of your accountant in a way and try to understand tax law a little bit to be ahead of the game. So we do notice that the best success with our clients comes with those that are really well informed and do a lot of reading. Tax law is complex, so you will still need the guidance most likely from your tax professional, some hand holding. But the more you read about it, just like with anything, the more you practice it, the more prepared you will be. Similarly, if you're going to a doctor or a lawyer or anybody else, you want to read up on the condition or the situation you're in to really come prepared and know what is going on. So that way you have a lot of great questions and everything is ready and going for when your time with that professional arrives. So number 6 would be responsive with communication. So when your tax return is being prepared and your tax professional has actually started working on your tax return or your accounting, you want to be very responsive with communication. This is not the time to disappear for a week or two. Even if you're on vacation, which does sometimes happen because most people do take vacations in March and all these times of years where accountants are very busy, that doesn't automatically give you an excuse to disappear because you had this vacation scheduled. Unfortunately, in real life, it's best to still be involved with your tax return, like I said, from anywhere. So the technology is there, and it doesn't take up a lot of time to dig up information. Nobody wants to dig up information from their vacation and deal with accounting, but that would all circle back to the first few points as to start a relationship early, figure out where you are in queue and everything to be able to be processed more timely. So that way you're not being nudged during your vacation. So that might be a conversation to bring up with your tax professional. Hey, I'm planning a vacation come March, and I want to make sure that I'm not dealing with this during my vacation time. So that's basically how I would handle it if it were me, and that's how you can handle it as well. All right. So that was number 6. Number 7, be proactive with communication. So in other words, you want to send questions and be able to, I'd hate to use the word nudge, but do follow up as much as possible, because remember that squeaky wheel does get the grease. So you want to not be afraid to bug us, because again, like I said, resources are limited in most accounting firms. If you think about it, a large accounting firm is like maybe 15 people or so, something like that, maybe 15 to 30 people. And most accounting firms are, a couple of people, maybe 3 or 4 people big. And that's considered like your norm these days, because, that's always been the nature of accounting firms. Very different from all other industry where a big company is like hundreds of people. Yeah. So anyway, be proactive. Don't be afraid to reach out and basically nudge as much as you can, but don't over nudge. And we'll get to the don'ts in a minute. Ask for clarification wherever necessary. And this would include how to complete worksheets or, before you're signing your tax return. Just don't be ashamed. There's no such thing as stupid questions, especially when it comes to your taxes where you're signing on the penalties of perjury. This is really important to us as your tax professionals, for you to really understand where the tax laws are coming from, how it applies to you, and for you to really understand what you're signing. This is so crucial these days. We want everybody to feel like they really get it, like they understand what exactly they're signing. So we've always taken great lengths in our practice to make sure that our clients get that clarity, that transparency about their tax returns. Okay, so we've always written very long emails with fingers pointing and arrows and worksheets and screenshots and hey, look over there, kind of hand holding to make sure that our information is very clear. Actually, 2 years ago, we started doing presentations through video to make it even more clear as to how exactly what exactly it is that we're discussing when we're emailing you about your tax return or about any tax laws, because tax law is already complicated, so we want to make it as easy to understand as possible. And that's why we used to write things out with screenshots and all sorts of things to make it very, very clear as to what exactly we're conveying, to make it understand. But nevertheless, it was still a little bit complicated for people to see, emails with a lot of this wording, no matter how much we've practiced to make it as common language as possible. It still is complicated information to convey because we're dealing with tax law, understand? So we started doing videos, and that's when we saw a great amount of ahas and light bulbs, and people became very excited about their taxes because, it literally took the pain out of the process, because most people don't look forward to doing their taxes, every year. It's a big chore. So our job was always to make it as easy as possible. You understand? So if you don't understand how to complete a worksheet that your accountant gives you for like a home office deduction or for automobile deduction, just ask for clarity. Don't submit something back without really understanding what you're doing. Like for example, the auto worksheet is designed to obtain information from you so we can complete that same worksheet within the tax software. And we can't complete it for you without the variables, right? Without the input. So we actually need you guys to complete it to the best of your ability. But if you're not sure exactly why you're completing it, that's going to defeat the purpose. So you need to maybe first understand why you're completing this worksheet. Why can't I just send it to you this way? What are the different methods, right? Why can't I just send to you an email? What are the different methods of accounting? When it comes to automobile deduction, you have two methods. You have the standard method of accounting for vehicle deductions. So if you get involved with that a little bit deeper, you'll find that your accountant might already have videos explaining in detail, the different methods of deduction for the automobile use, and might point you in the direction, so that way it'll become very clear and apparent what it is that you should do, what you should be looking out for, and it becomes more of a partnership than it becomes like hand-holding and spoon-feeding, if you will, where that's when you're going to start really reaping the benefits, because you're going to start understanding the tax law a little bit better, and you're going to get more involved. And then that means obviously that you're signing your return and that you're understanding much better what it is that you're signing, and you'll know what to look out for going forward. So it's actually learning a new skill, and it's going to bring a lot of value to you as a taxpayer, as a client, going into many years. All right, so enough said about that. Learn where you are in queue. So most accountants these days have a queue. It's a first come, first serve, and priority and complexity basis. Now, if you're in February and you still haven't heard from your accountant, there's probably a good reason for that. January is a very, very busy month, and people don't actually get processed until starting of February, because the tax software usually isn't available for e-file until late January any which way. So you don't want to over nudge, but you do want to know where you are in queue, and just follow up, get an idea of where you're going to be processed. And the accountants usually will have a good idea of when they'll be processing your return based off of your complexity for that year, based off of your seniority as a client, based off of many other variables that might come into play for that year. There might be tax law changes that will impact how you're being filed as well. That's completely out of anyone's control. So it's very important to figure out quickly where you would be in queue. So have a meeting pre-tax season with your accountant. Spend that 1 hour to get a good idea of where you'll be processed. And I'd say probably then, if you don't hear back within the expected time allotted, I'd then follow up again a couple of times, maybe revisit the plan. Something's changed that's held things back, which is also common. Not everything's always going to work out, but definitely get that going ahead of time. All right. My last tip for you, this would be tip number 10, is be professional, take advice, follow through. So just have patience with your accounting team. Just know that there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes that you might not be aware of. So just try to always be patient. Don't automatically assume that just because they're your accountant that it kind of allows for you to discuss things, with a lot of pushback, or trying not to understand when you really should be understanding what it is that they're conveying and taking the time to actually invest in the education that they're furnishing you with, because it is a bit of an education for most people. And definitely, most accounting firms will offer advice during the actual process of doing the tax return that will the advice can be, about prior returns. So you might be dealing with an amended return situation where if you're a new client, you come to us, and there's a couple of good videos on that I just did about errors on your prior return that, might all of a sudden come to light. And the account, we're not engaged to do the prior return, but we bring it to light. You might want to follow up on that, because that might actually save you money in the long term. And or if most of our clients were also not only going backwards, if you're a new client, or our other job is to also help people for the coming year, even though it's the worst time of year to actually discuss 2024 in this case, right? Because it's premature. There's still certain facets to your tax return that it will make great sense to discuss during your 2023 tax preparation. Okay, and a great example of that is your estimated taxes. You've underwithheld, you've underpaid your taxes for 2023. Help me make sure I don't fall prey to this again and end up penalized because I didn't submit enough withholding or I didn't pay enough estimated income taxes. How do I avoid this in the future? That's definitely a conversation you want to have in 2024 about 2024 when you're doing your 2023 tax return, because that's the time that your accountant should automatically be giving you this advice. But in case they don't, definitely be on the lookout to do that. But it is not a time to all of a sudden start discussing, hey, I'm going to get married and I'm moving across state lines. Can we calculate the tax? No, this is not the time for tax planning. Tax planning usually takes precedence in the mid-months in the middle of the year. You're looking at June, July. That's when we're usually dealing with actual tax planning, where we sit down and go over items that we still have time to change. But something so far out, or even if it's coming near, it doesn't necessarily mean that we actually have the physical time or capacity to sit down and do a tax plan. There's still a lot of time left in the year for that. Okay, now let's talk about the don'ts. Okay, everybody's favorite don't. So don't number one, everything that I just mentioned from 1 to 10 on this page, all right? Don't do the opposite of that, okay? Don't come late, all right? Don't upload your documents all at once when you get them in April, okay? Don't forget to ask for onboarding and deposit request and all this other stuff that's a formality, but that puts you in queue. So most accountants, for you to become engaged, for you to have a contract with them as contract law, you need to actually have an agreement in place that spells everything out. And for that agreement to be binding by law, you need to actually leave some money, some tender. All right. So don't go and skip that process because you didn't have an official engagement. Even if you're friendly with your accountant, that doesn't mean that they can just throw everything out the window and put you ahead of everybody that already signed up, filled everything out, left a deposit, and uploaded their documents. Don't do that. All right. Definitely be in the know. Know everything that's going on with the tax law. Nobody wants to deal with it. Hey, I don't want to fill up with gas every day. I don't, I don't want to brush my teeth, whatever. There's a lot of things I don't want to do, but this is not kindergarten. All right, folks, we all have responsibilities, especially as citizens, as taxpayers. So it's on you to be informed, to get on the mailing list, to learn some tax law. Don't just automatically sign and turn your eye. Really get into it. Pretend like this is, something you have to do, like spring cleaning every year, right? This is just maintenance, things that are a must. I don't have to tell you that. You're a big kid now. All right. Be responsive, be proactive. Don't disappear. Don't put your head in the sand. Many people do that. They don't understand. They get scared. Oh my God, I might owe money. Poof. That's the worst thing you can do. All right. So basically, yeah. So don't do the, don't do the opposite of 1 to 10. All right. Don't over nudge for number 2. Hey, is my return ready? Hey, is my return ready? Hey, even if it's April 14th, your accountant, if you vetted them, they know that you're there. There's a reason that they haven't responded to you. It's probably because they're literally grew 10 hands and are doing 10 things literally at once as you're calling them. And all you're doing is actually, not only are you nudging the crap out of them, excuse my language, but you're also, maybe that's the worst choice of words, but you're also slowing down the process, and you're slowing down the process for others. If it's really late in the game, you're probably not going to be processed on time for a reason. Just send an email, request a response, give some sort of timeline. Don't keep calling 3 times a day and then calling the next day and then the day after. That's really not going to get anything done. Most accountants turn off their phones, by the way, after a certain time of the year. Just keep it in mind. Don't overreact to a tax bill. Here's a good one. And I lost some light. I guess, let me see. I guess I'll have to finish this video without the light, guys. Sorry. So I probably talked my batteries off. Don't overreact to a tax bill or the service fee. This comes back to be professional. Just because you owe money, that doesn't mean that you have to get upset. It doesn't mean that your accountant did something wrong. None of that. You just try to understand why that happened. What exactly, what makes up this balance? Don't start saying, but I always paid this much. Well, that doesn't mean anything. Maybe you've always done it wrong. Maybe this year something changed. Tax law, your situation, what have you. You should be more prepared. You need to start, if you have a situational change in your tax picture, you should be coming around way earlier in the year when those things are happening, not in tax season. Tax season, the year is closed. It's too late for most things to be done. There's very few strategies that can be implemented because the year has been closed. That's it, guys. All right, so don't be that person that's going to react over the tax bill. And definitely don't get upset about the bill. It is what it is, guys. You vetted your accountant. You should have understood ahead of time. That's what November, December, January is all about. When you're looking to find an accountant, that's the time to understand that accountant's practices, processes, their service fees, and everything and anything in between that goes into the tax preparation service cost. That is why the bill is what it is. If you didn't ask ahead of time, or you didn't check in, or you didn't actually plan, then that's on you guys. Now, in our case, we're very proactive and we want to make sure there's no surprises. So we bring everything up front always. Whenever somebody's shopping with us, we tell them everything up front. It's spelled out everywhere. And matter of fact, the way we work is we usually take a deposit and then we do the work and then we request for another deposit as we're going. So our clients are never surprised with the bill. We always tell them, hey, this is, if we've used up the money, we're going to come back and say, hey, by the way, this is looking like not 5 hours that we thought. This might be actually 10 hours before we continue. So we've been doing this for such a long time. We have a very good idea and understanding of what's going to take to complete your return. So we're usually very much on the mark, but even with our experience, sometimes we come in short. So we want to make sure that there's no surprises. This is very important to us. But nevertheless, I guess even with all the efforts, sometimes people still get a sticker shock, or maybe they just didn't listen very well or didn't understand what goes into it. And They just get upset about the bill. Don't get upset about the bill, folks. All right, here's a great one. Don't compare your tax situation to your neighbor, what the payroll department told you as tax advice, a TikTok you heard. All that out the window, guys. Unless you're going to go do your taxes with them, then there's no reason why you should bring that even up. If you don't trust your professional, don't do that. That's just poor etiquette. That's just, it looks plain silly. I would never do that if I picked a lawyer, a doctor, or somebody to deal with on a professional level, or a mechanic, or my handyman. If I pick them, I probably trust them for a reason. I've vetted them. I've looked through this, and I'm not going to come in and say, hey, but my guy said that you can do this for less, or what you're saying here is malarkey, and my payroll advisor told me, guys, save it. All right. Last but not least, don't place your head in the sand. If you put your head in the sand, you're actually going to stand to probably lose even more. Some people disappear. They leave a deposit. We can't even file an extension without you guys. So the worst thing you can do is not file your return on time and show up in May and say, oh, but I thought you guys signed an extension for us. No, we can't sign and file an extension for you. You still have to be involved in that process. And we can't just do it for you without discussing what you might owe and all this other stuff. And by the way, you just made it a million times worse because now your return is late because you didn't even file an extension. So at the worst, at the least, I want you to file an extension even without payment, because the worst penalties are not filing. Is the not filing penalty, and that would happen if you don't file an extension. So those are really penalized heavily. The heaviest of all the penalties that I've discussed in other videos, if you want to check out, I'll link it below. Baskin Robbins 31 flavors. All right. So just check that video out if you want to understand how many levels of penalties there are. And the IRS will definitely penalize late filing, one of the worst, because you don't want to do that where you could have just filed an extension even without payment. So don't be that person that disappears and doesn't file even an extension. So at the very least, do that. All right, guys, that's it. This is another great segment. Sorry about all the technical cues. I lost my lighting on this Halo. I guess the battery died, and I was distracted with the computer light. So I had to turn that back on as the computer goes to sleep as I'm talking endlessly. Sorry about the long video. I feel that all of this information is very crucial to your success. Otherwise, I wouldn't be spending the time talking about it. I know that it's a lot to discuss. I'm going to put chapters in this so it's easy to navigate. I'm going to link down a couple of videos so that you can refer to other videos if you want to learn more about, automobile deductions, or you want to learn more about an extension and penalties and all that other stuff. We have a lot of great content. It's all thanks to great supporters like yourself. We love bringing great content that's not cookie cutter directly to you guys so that you learn first and foremost from us directly what it is it takes to succeed in the accounting and tax arena. All right, guys, remember, our success means your success all day, every day here at the firm, Freyman CPA. This is Greg Freyman signing off and wishing you the best and most successful tax season yet, 2024. Let's make it a great one. We'll talk soon. Bye.